Okay, we're going to talk about something really interesting. And my name is Dr. Stephen Schwartz. And I'm the president and founder of a company called Bioharmonic Technologies. And I'm excited to present to all of you today because if you haven't been to, how many people have been on the V.I.B.E. here in the room? If you don't know what that means, then probably no. Okay, good number of people. Everybody's like, it's like meditation, it's like sound healing, and always needing to water down what it is. But here at RAADFest, you guys are all about the science, so I'm excited to spend the next 24 minutes and 30 seconds with you to get really heavy into exactly why I created what I did and give you all the science in it. So, you guys ready to get started? All right. How do we get it? There we go. Oh. Okay. So it all begins with this question. How's biochemistry created? This is the question I asked. Now, before we go into this is my book that I wrote called Primal Resonance, Discover the Secrets to Health, Vitality, and Optimal Human Performance. And it talks about the top 10 ways on how to reverse aging and degeneration. But before this book was a book, this was a clinic. And it was a clinic where I specialized in Denver, Colorado, reversing chronic illness and autoimmune diseases and allergies and things that just wouldn't get better, using all vibrational techniques and technologies. And so that was the whole foundation of everything that I was doing. And I started, instead of putting things in my mouth, I started saying to myself, how is this working bioenergetically? And I know that if we were working with biochemistry specifically, we wouldn't be living the lives we'd be living. We'd be living in a space of being controlled by our emotions, we'd be controlled by our metabolisms, and we wouldn't really have any choice in our lives. But we know that that's not the case. We know that epigenetics is the more clear path of how we're going to be, that chemistry comes through our environment. And that through our environment is what creates biochemistry, that we are biochemistry second to bioenergetics. We are physical manifestations of our own energetic expressions. Chemistry comes second to bioresonance. And what I would like to explain is, who's heard of the piezoelectric effect? Show of hands. A few people, okay. So this is a really important topic, and this is really where we're going to start chunking this down to the lowest common denominator. We think about our cells, right? Okay, we all got cells, 100 trillion cells. But the piezoelectric effect is a principle, it's actually an engineering term. And what it states is that in a living system, if there's two objects that move around each other, they create an electromagnetic field. So now we have these cells, and if we go into cells, what are we made up of? Protons, neutrons, electrons. They're moving, and it's a living system, and it creates an electromagnetic field. This is where all the energy comes from in our bodies. Now, there's another amazing phenomenon known as photonic emission. Who's ever heard of photonic emission? A few people? Really interesting concept of photonic emission. Every time an electron bounces from one level to another, it releases energy. It creates a spark. So now, how many electrons are in a cell? I have no idea. A lot. And there's 100 trillion cells. So all of these sparks are going off in 100 trillion cells, and that's what creates this energy field. That's not metaphysics. That's science. And that's really important for you guys to realize that. Now, you might say to yourself, well, why is it we're not looking like an aura? This looks physical, right? Well, there's a process where we slow down light into sound. And I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. But that's the foundation of bioenergetics, where it all really kind of begins. So what are the anatomy? What are the anatomy that's going into this? Now, I had a really amazing quote from Albert Einstein, and he says that this is not defined. This is that if we if we align our thoughts with the resonance of our bodies, we align to that dimensional reality. That dimensional reality is not philosophy, it's physics. That's what Albert Einstein says. That's why I refer to our technology as interdimensional portals. So what we're going to be talking about here is when we're looking at so what is bioresonance and what's the anatomy of it? It's actually pretty simple. Our cells are water, 70 to 90% water, and the other aspect of this is our exoskeleton. And the exoskeleton consists of something called the living connective tissue matrix, and it surrounds every tissue system and cell of the body. So water has three components that it really fundamentally does. It holds cellular memory, it's conductive, and it dilutes and detoxifies. And if we look at this brain, blood, heart, bones, everything in our bodies consists of water. But we're not just this bucket of water on the ground. We have shape to us. How do we have shape? That's the exoskeleton, or the living connective tissue matrix. And the fundamentals of the biological materials that are made up in this is what is the hidden ingredient in longevity and anti-aging. So the living connective tissue matrix consists of three biological materials. Repeat after me. Microfilaments, microtubules, and intermediate tubules. That's fun to say. I think those are the three most fun words in the human body. But what do they do? Okay, it's not so much what the word is, but they have one biological function. Anybody know what that is? Venture a guess?
Keep the water in place.
They do that, but actually that's what the living connective tissue matrix does. But the microfilaments, microtubules, and intermediate tubules, they actually have one biological function. They respond to our environment with vibrational resonance. They respond to your environment using vibrational resonance. So all of a sudden, everything changes. So now we have this piezoelectric effect that generates all this energy. We know Bruce Lipton has spoken about epigenetics, that our biochemistry has responded, the biochemistry has responded through our environment. And now we're looking at these fundamental aspects that initiate every biological feature in our bodies through vibrational resonance. And we're going to go even deeper. So let's just talk about, at this longevity conference, where does it all begin? It begins when the sperm fertilizes the egg and we begin a process known as mitosis. What is mitosis? That's cellular replication. That's an important biological feature, right? It's kind of the number one most important feature. There's another one we're going to talk about in just a minute. But where this originates, there's 7 phases of mitosis. And the one we're going to talk about first is interphase. Interphase is at the very top. And what this works with is cellular metabolism. And let me see. And the process begins with cellular metabolism providing energy to the cell. In interphase, there's an early organization of microtubules, which provides primitive framework and genetic materials to the soon-to-be developing cells. So the first thing that originates in the interphase, in mitosis, is microtubules. And what do microtubules do? They respond to our environment through vibrational resonance. So if we can influence the way that bioresonance, that their environment is responding through bioresonance, it now creates cellular metabolism. So think about people that have any kind of disease process, cancer, anything like that. The whole process of how our cells replicate is influenced through the living connective tissue matrix. Signal transduction. This is another fundamental. And this works with how our cells communicate. That's another important one, right? How our cells replicate, how our cells communicate. So this is a standard diagram of signal transduction. And it says it right here. This is what I love the term hiding in plain sight. Because any doctors in the room or anybody that's ever studied anything on this, these are out of every textbook. And it says right here, environmental stimulus. An environmental stimulus hits a receptor and then goes through a process of transduction and creates biochemistry. This is the initiation of biochemistry. It's called signal transduction. And we might say to ourselves, how does the stimulus become activated? Through the living connective tissue matrix. So then all of a sudden, it kind of becomes easy. In my thought process, I said, how are we going to create, if all we have to do is influence bioresonance to create chemistry, it gets really simple. Good chemistry, good positive bioresonance creates positive healing chemistry. Negative bioresonance creates negative biochemistry. So you want to know what's going on in your body? Think about the environment that's being triggered, that's being trickled down into these chemical cascades. Everything's energy. And when we look at this electromagnetic field spectrum, if you guys aren't familiar with that, way over here on the left is sound. And sound begins to move and expedite, get faster. It moves into invisible light, and then it moves into visible light, and then it moves into electromagnetic fields like X-rays and gamma rays and microwaves and things like that, other forms, and that works more with the electromagnetic field of our bodies, our auras. But as we slow it down, and Pythagoras has been talking about this for centuries. Pythagoras, the father of mathematics, he says that when you take light and you slow it down, it turns into sound. And if you slow sound down, it turns into vibration. And he ran all the mystery schools, and the foundation of mystery schools was all through sound. So this is when I was creating this technology, and in my practice, I use sound, light, frequency, and vibration. I was developing lasers, developing biofeedback systems. I'm a big proponent of all of these modalities. But when I said to myself, how do I clear cellular memory? How do I influence the field? And I'm going for this very specific interaction between essentially quantum reality and Newtonian physics. I really think that is the interplay between bioresonance and biochemistry. It goes to the living connective tissue matrix. So I'm purposely going to work with sound, and not just sound. What kind of sound? Under 100 hertz. That's going to bring us into a process that's going to resonate the connective tissue specifically, and then we load it with specific information. And that leads to this delivery system. It's called the V.I.B.E system. All right, repeat after me. Vibrational. Individualized. You're not saying it over there. Body. Enhancement. System. So people see these, they're like, oh, tell me about the bed, tell me about the couch, tell me about the chair, tell me about the mat. It's not a bed, not chatter, it's none of those things. It's a V.I.B.E system. It's its own individual thing. It's a delivery system that is designed specifically for accessing the connective tissue systemically. And I designed this for clearing cellular memory. I designed it for releasing shock and trauma. And I designed it for entraining the body into the most fundamental aspects of our nervous system called parasympathetic. Who's familiar with parasympathetic in the room? And what does parasympathetic do? It's rest and repose. Whatever modality you're doing, anything, if your body is not in parasympathetic, it is not Your biochemistry is not optimized for healing, period. Whatever you're doing. So this stacks great with any other modality because it's going to put your body into parasympathetic. And how does it do it? It does it because there's a process called full body neurological entrainment. What's another word for that? Body hypnosis. And really the key to these things is, there's a lot of sound beds out there. There's a lot of different things out there. And yes, you can play music through anything that's going to vibrate, and that's a sound bed. But in 2007, I founded my company, Bioharmonic Technologies, and I began to formulate very specialized music called sonic ceuticals. And just the same as you're going to formulate, let's say if you're going to make a homeopathic remedy and you're going to combine all these different kind of homeopathics together for a different physiological effect, or an herbal remedy that's going to combine many different herbs to create a different physiological effect, I started researching frequencies and started formulating them, and each sonic ceutical has anywhere between 5 to 7 different therapeutics layered on top of different contemporary music that we work with different music principles for different physiological effects. So these work with things like releasing PTSD, clearing negative energy out of your nervous system space and dwelling, emotional balancing, physical healing, stem cell activation, bone regeneration, did I say bone healing? Digestive healing, anti-inflammatory detox, brain nervous system balancing, depression, anxiety, any kind of spectrum disorders, transformation and abundance. When we're talking about envisioning the future, like Albert Einstein said, it's not just working the here and now, it's about what can we create. What's the new dimensional reality you want to step into? When I was working with chronic illness, people would come in sick. And I would say, what do you want to be? How do you want to be? Where do you want to go? And they'd say, I want to get out of pain, or I want to sleep, or I want to have more energy. Okay, that's the baseline. Where do you want to go beyond that? So now I'm an evolutionary performance expert, and we're taking people beyond the place of being in pain and elevating to optimizing biochemistry and really optimizing their lives. And that's the foundation of myself, Dr. Stephen Schwartz, and Bioharmonic Technologies. We have an app called V.I.B.E. It's the world's first immersive music app. And it houses all of these music. We're going to be making more music deeper into 2024 and beyond. But these are the programs that we're working with. This is my book, Primal Resonance, Discover the Secrets to Health, Vitality, and Optimal Human Performance. And it's been referred to as the Doctrine to the New Earth. And I just recorded my audiobook, which I'm really excited about. So that'll be out on Audible and hopefully the end of the month. And before this ends, we have about 5 minutes left. These were some processes that we've been validating. I've been validating my music scientifically since 2007. I had a vision to make a vibrational sound bed since 2009 as a delivery system for my music. And I'm going to share one case study with you. And this is the same HRV testing that BrainTap uses and Dr. Patrick Porter. We've been using this for years. We have, I don't know how many cases we've gone through. But this is one specific case of a young woman. And I'm going to just share through a couple things here. If we look at the third slide over here, the third, where my cursor is, this is the emotional state. And we look at 26. The process was she listened to 20 minutes of a sonic ceutical. And at the end of that, the second HRV was tested. It went from 26 to 91. The one below this is the immune system function, and went from 64 to 75. This first slide here, these are looking at different levels of emotional state. This was at 40, and it went to 70, and this is after 20 minutes of listening to the vibe. This is really profound, the brainwave states. You see all this brain chatter. This is what brain chatter looks like. You're supposed to be in beta, or having a daydream in alpha, or maybe somewhere into theta if you're doing more of a meditative state, or then you're sleeping down in delta. But when you have all this going, it's da-da-da-da-da. This is ADD. This is what ADD looks like. It's very pretty. Exactly. ADD, well, listen, everybody's got ADD. We're all very pretty, beautiful people. But after 20 minutes, we see a complete flattening of all of the brainwave states and a spike in delta. And also this next, in the middle component here, this is anti-aging. So this is showing biological age versus chronological age. And at the beginning, this is her age at 28, and then it goes down to 29. I mean, this is at 29 where she started, and then it ended up dropping down to 23. So yeah, you know, she just gained 6 years of her life in 20 minutes. And we have a couple more slides, so I'm going to move forward. But as you can see, there's a movement of energy through the spine, thoracic spine. And what I find fascinating about this is there's something, when you talk about parasympathetic, that corresponds to cranial sacral is parasympathetic versus sympathetic, which is thoracolumbar. And we see that her body is stuck in sympathetic, and then it moves into parasympathetic with this design where it goes green and blue, which is amazing. And then these are different aspects of chakra systems and energy fields, and you see they all improved as well too. This is our most recent research that we did just within the last few months, and we're going to be doing more of this into 2024. We're working bioenergetically, but my theory is that through bioresonance, we are directly impacting biochemistry. And so we did a test with urine and with saliva, first in, first out. And we checked for salts, sugars, proteins, and pH. And the way that we ran the test was we had the subject pick from the SonicSuticals menu what vibrational resonance are you wanting to align yourself with. They would pick of their choice. 20 minutes later, we did a follow-up, and we noticed profound biochemical changes in every single category. So we're going to be diving deeper into that in the years to come. So this is my contact information. I have a few more minutes left. I'd love to open up for any questions anybody might have, and before I wrap this up. Yes. About electromagnetic fields? Well, we are electromagnetic fields, and if we go back to that chart that's showing here, if we bring our bodies into a place of homeostasis, our bodies become stronger. And I really feel like when we talk about immortality, the immortalists that are here, the way you're going to be able to do this is to be aligned with frequencies that are in alignment with nature. And through my research, between 100 hertz, so there's a very interesting sweet spot with music, okay? 20 to 20,000 hertz is what our ears can hear. But if we lower that scale into the vibrational space, we can go down to theta or delta, which is 0.5 or even less hertz, to 100 hertz. So there's this really cool interaction between 20 hertz and 100 hertz where we can hear and feel. And guess what exists in that super low to 100 range? All the fundamental frequencies, the Schumann frequency, phi ratio, brainwave states, all of these that are the most fundamental for healing exist in that sub 100 space. So all these negative EMFs that we're dealing with are all existing way on the other side of the electromagnetic fields, and it's blowing out our nervous system. So what do you do as a remedy? Ground into the natural frequencies of Earth. And we talk about grounding, of course, these are all fundamental. But it comes back to epigenetics. What information are you going to... We live in a toxic world. We live in a space where we can't avoid the food that we eat, the air that we drink, the thoughts that we think. But most importantly, you know what the most toxic of all the inputs are? The one that I haven't said. I'm going to leave you guys with. The thoughts that we think. Exactly. Who said that? You're not allowed to answer that question. I was going to say, whoever answered that question, I'll give a free book. But this is Amy. Actually, can we... who are my vibe vixens here? We have Amy, and then there's Fabiola. If you guys haven't vibed, raise your hand again. they're supporting us over at the Vibe Zone. We're in the back of the room. If you want to come vibe, see obviously myself or any of these two lovely ladies. And if you want to pick up a book or ask me any questions, that's where I'm going to be. And thank you for vibing with me. My name is Dr. Stephen Schwartz. Thank you.